Friends, what would you say the most common human illness is? What would your guess be? The common cold, maybe? Allergies? Backache? Here's a clue. It's the subject of today's first reading. The answer is depression. This remarkable story from the life of Elijah the prophet tells us some things about depression, things that we ought to be aware of. And the first thing is that we often don't recognize depression in ourselves or in others. You see, when you read or hear this story about Elijah, you don't immediately think that this is about depression. Depression is like that. It kind of often creeps up in disguise. You have to be alert in order to recognize. I once lived with a man for a year, actually, and neither I nor he realized that he was depressed. And the second thing about depression is that no one is immune from depression. It's not a respecter of rank or race or gender or age, men and women, adults and children, rich and poor. Everybody is susceptible. In fact, some of the most powerful and successful people have struggled with depression. One name that comes immediately to mind was Abraham Lincoln, who was chronically depressed. So was Michelangelo. So was Isaac Watts. Isaac Watts, maybe that name doesn't ring much, but you've sung his song. He is the author of Joy to the World. That song came from the pen of a depressed person. Joy to the world. A third thing that is true about depression is that it often strikes people when they're at the top of their form. It often comes on the heels of great accomplishment, great success. Women, for instance, sometimes who have just given birth to a child might experience postpartum depression. Something like that happened to Elijah. He had just experienced the high moment in his vocation as a prophet. If you go back a chapter prior to today's text, you'll see that he had held a contest with 450 prophets of the false god Baal on Mount Carmel. And God brought fire from the sky, vindicating Elijah's faith and prompting a great revival in the worship of the true God. He was a hero without parallel. And yet precisely at this moment, Queen Jezebel threatened him, causing him to collapse in fear and depression. And then God sends an angel. Now, the angel that came for Elijah probably looked like an angel, but for many depressed people, the angel that comes to them is disguised as the husband, the wife, the mother, parent, friend. Notice what the angel does, though, for Elijah, because it's quite possible that you could be that angel someday for someone who's depressed. The angel doesn't say, cheer up or be happy or even talk about God. In this text, it doesn't look like the angel is doing a whole lot, but actually the angel accomplishes a great deal. First of all, the angel is there. Just being there for someone who is depressed means a great deal. Just to sit with that person, to share some time with them, that is important. Then the angel touches Elijah, a gentle hand on a shoulder for a depressed person. A hug can mean a lot. Then the angel offers something to eat, an act of kindness that says, I care about you. Then Elijah feels his strength return and is able to make the first step away from the gravitational pull of depression. The angel in the story shows us what to do when we are the angel for someone in depression. We don't have to fix their problem or try to rescue them. It is enough to just be there, to bring a cup of soup or a hug, sit with them in silence. And the journey for recovery will begin with the strength, the encouragement to just take the first step. Elijah went on a 40-mile trip following his depression, but it began with one single step. If you can make a depressed person make the first step, you are an angel indeed. So then the reading from the book of Kings today gives us some insights into depression. It often comes in disguise. It can affect people of all ages and in all economic circumstances. It often comes on the heels of some great success or accomplishment. God sends an angel to the depressed person, and that angel just could be you. And the road to recovery begins with a single step. And if you, the angel, can enable that person to take the first step, blessed are you. One final thought. The gospel reading, of course, is about Jesus in the Eucharist, and there's an obvious connection between these two readings. Elijah, who is depressed, and Jesus in the Eucharist. Surely a depressed person can find strength for recovery by taking part in the Eucharist, but often the depressed person does not come to Jesus in the Eucharist. Depressed people usually don't want to go anywhere. And that's part of the problem. And then Jesus has to go to them, the Jesus that is in you, because you have been here at the Eucharist, might need to reach out to that depressed person. The life of grace that is in you, the life of Christ that is in you, can perhaps connect with the depressed person. You can be God's angels, perhaps, to that person. May this Eucharist we are celebrating here enable us to be angels to people who are depressed. Amen.